little buzzlings, and welcome back to the Tea with B podcast, where you spill the tea on absolutely anything. On today's show, I am super excited on the subject matter because it's something that I find very, very important, and that is monetizing knowledge. Now, we'll get into a little bit more of what that means, but with me today, I have an amazing coach extraordinaire, multiple businesses. I have Breana Puente with me today. Welcome, Breana. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And the thing is, it's amazing. I actually found Breana through TikTok, and she gives the most incredible advice and tips and is so encouraging, and is the reason that I wanted to have her on today. But before we get into all of that, Breana, if you don't mind kind of introducing yourself just a little bit to my little buzzlings, letting people know who you are and where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I am very passionate about this topic as well. I've been online for a little over 5 years now. I started off as a freelancer. I built out an agency, and TikTok is actually a new platform for me. And I say new because I've been in social media for so many years. So for me, I'm still learning the platform. I've been on it for about a year, but the beautiful thing is that I've transitioned in that year my entire online business onto the platform. And it's given me just an incredible amount of opportunity when it comes to driving organic traffic. So what I do is I teach people how to monetize their knowledge, how to turn their knowledge, whether it's personal or professional, into digital products and services. So think digital marketing services, coaching products and programs, courses, digital downloads, all of the above. That is my happy space. And that is what I talk about on all of my social media channels.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. And your advice is so, so helpful. Now, before we get into kind of all the ins and outs of online business and seeing if that's where people would like to lead, let's first get into how you kind of got into this field, because like a lot of us, you were raised in a very traditional way, in a sense of go to college, get a degree, go work 9 to 5, get married, have kids, and live a traditional quote unquote life. Now, tell me how initially you did start out like that. You did want to pursue those traditional dreams. And so talk about that and how all of that got flipped on its head.
Yeah, so I was raised in a very traditional household. My mom actually stayed home and raised kids. My dad had his own business, and he eventually went into the corporate world and worked a 9 to 5 for many years. So I grew up with that model, and it was very traditional. There wasn't really anything that we discussed outside of that, at least not in my home. And so when I went to college and I got the degree and I finished, I entered the corporate world, and I got the dream 9 to 5. I thought that it was exactly what I wanted. And I realized about 6 months or so in that I was not happy. I was not going to be happy. And it took me a couple of years to make the decision to leave, because you're fighting so much, right? We've got this social paradigm that we live inside of, where if you step outside of the quote unquote norm, you are almost shunned, especially in the professional capacity, because if you don't have a job, if you don't have a real job, as it were, people question that. They question your decisions. They question your life path. And I did get a lot of kind of kickback when I was starting to make this transition. So while I was working my corporate 9 to 5 and trying to figure out how I could do all of the things that I wanted to do, which were primarily travel. I really wanted to travel. I wanted to have my nights and weekends to myself. And as much as I tried to really put myself into my job and grow my career, I just my heart wasn't in it. And I knew that at some point I was either going to burn out, or I was going to perhaps even have to change industries and careers entirely, because so much was required of me from the job, not just, showing up and being at my desk all day, but also it was expected, you know, this unspoken expectation that I would bring work home with me and that I would work on weekends like my colleagues were. And outside of that, going to work events, like it was really for me very overwhelming. And I had 2 weeks of vacation per year, which was for me certainly not sufficient. So I was very lucky to be in a position where I was constantly kind of seeing what was evolving in this online business space. I was a digital media recruiter. So I worked with the big agencies in New York, Chicago, LA that hired the social media managers, the Facebook ad managers, people that were running creative initiatives for big companies. And I got to see what they were doing. So it piqued my interest very much. And I started doing a lot of research on my own, trying to figure out how this was possible, because some of the people that I spoke with were freelancers. And that was a concept that I'd never really stumbled upon before. But the more that I learned about it, the more that I read up and followed creators who were doing this already, the more I was convinced that I absolutely could do this. I could create my own business. I could create my own income streams and just work remotely. So when I did finally make the leap, I had taught myself at that point social media management. I had started a few businesses that were not grand slam successes, but I did make some money with them. And so I had learned social media management for those businesses. And so I created a profile on Upwork, which is a freelancing platform if you're not familiar with it. And I started submitting proposals to jobs. The first job that I got was with a client that paid me $2,500 a month, and I worked with them for 9 months. And as soon as I signed on with them, I realized like this is one client and it's taking a couple hours a week from me. And I'm making pretty much near what I was making in my corporate job at that point. So it was, for me, that was all that I needed. I quit my job within the first few months of taking on my first client, and then everything kind of just snowballed from there. I've traveled all over the world. I've made more money working for myself than I certainly could have if I had gone the traditional route in the industry that I was in. And I have now been able to step into this educator capacity where I'm coaching and I'm creating digital products and courses. And I truly am just living my dream life. And it was made possible because of something as simple as creating an income stream online.
That's amazing. I just got to say that right off the bat. Now, before we even kind of get into a little bit more, I also want to say, you going back to the normal rhetoric that people are kind of fed from the very start, you are also the first college graduate in your family. So congratulations on that. But you're so right, everyone who doesn't want to pursue or kind of start in the 9 to 5 and then realize, hey, I only get 2 weeks out of the year to do what I want. And you know, some people, when they get 3 weeks, they think they're so grateful for the 3 weeks. And it's just that same rhetoric that keeps us on the hamster wheel, and we have to get off. And I love that that's what that's what monetizing knowledge is we're in the age of knowledge and the internet, and it's the best time really to be alive. Now, I'm going to get into, I know you're just as passionate about this as I am, which is, you know, there is a fear when you leave a 9 to 5, that can be scary, you know, no benefits, no consistent income. That's what people think of when leaving the 9 to 5, which is the reason that most people stay in it. Now, let's talk about mindset that comes to it, that I know you're just as passionate as I am, of how people can kind of switch their mindset into realizing, you know what, yes, there is some challenges, the struggles with being a freelancer or, you know, starting online businesses, but you can do it and it's manageable. Just most importantly, all you have to change is your mindset to take on that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Mindset is, I've got a vision board in front of me. You can't see it off the screen, but on the vision board at the very bottom, I'm constantly writing down just things to inspire me. And they're always revolving around, well, at least for the last 6 months or so, revolving around doing it, just doing it no matter what, not allowing yourself to get caught up in the hype, right? Get caught up in the negative self-talk, get caught up in the negativity that comes from the outside, because until you do it, you're not going to be convinced that you can, first of all, unless you are an incredibly a person that can be very self-encouraged, which I find has taken me many, many years to develop.
The hard to develop.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So for me, it was the little wins, the tiny little successes that showed me that I could do this. So the very first client that I got, I didn't know what I was doing on that sales call, but I did it. The very first interview that I did, I didn't know what I was doing, but I got off of the interview and I was like, okay, this is amazing. I did this. Every single sales call, every single pitch, every single invoice that's paid gives you a little bit more confidence. You have got to start, though, with believing that you can do the thing that you're aiming to do. And for me, the mindset shift kind of came when I started to see other people who had gone before me and done it already, because it is a very scary thing. You're correct. And I haven't done it by myself. And most creatives, if they are successful and they stick with it long term, they've got support systems, whether it is a really good encouraging group of friends or a partner that is there for them and helps to pick them up when they're feeling discouraged. I was very lucky to have my husband is incredibly supportive, and he's always been there to kind of like give me that extra push that I needed. He's always believed in me. So I had that external validation as well. But for myself, and I know for many entrepreneurs, the hardest thing is just believing that you can do something. So what I recommend to entrepreneurs who are ready to take this journey for themselves is to watch people who have done it before you, gain inspiration from their stories, and truly follow just like even a few people. Rachel Peterson was one for me. Gary Vee was another one that I paid really close attention to in the early months and years, and still follow both of them. But they share their struggle. They share the difficulty and then the successes. There are going to be trials and failures. And there are going to be times when you feel like you want to quit, but every single little success will give you that validation, that internal validation, and the drive to get back up and to take just one more step. So mindset is something, it's absolutely it's a journey, just like anything, any type of self-discovery, any spiritual path is going to be. Every single day you show up for yourself, every single day, even if you are feeling discouraged, 1% more, just put a little bit more in than you put in yesterday. And in saying that, I don't mean, I'm not speaking to hustle culture. Always take time off for your mental health. You have to step away when you don't have the energy to invest. But when you do have the energy, move with that energy and stay inspired by following people who have done it before you and keeping a really positive, close circle to keep you inspired.
Mm-hmm. You're so right, because no one does it alone. I think that's a really important lesson that people forget. And it's really great that you have, supportive people around you. If you don't, you still have to support yourself. And what I'm hearing, and you're so right, is you just have to get started. And if you have little fails, you'll learn from them, you'll get better. But the one thing I love that you brought up, Breana, is hustle culture. Now, I know that you have some opinions, as do I, in the sense of, when you say improving yourself, and when I say improving yourself or others in day-to-day life, I don't mean hustle culture just like you. I mean just improving yourself, whether you're learning a different language for 1 minute to 2 minutes the next day, that's the kind of improvement. So talk about your views on hustle culture and kind of when those rose-colored glasses for it kind of broke.
Oh my God, I could talk about this for hours. So hustle culture, when I first started working online, it was in the days of Instagram, right? So think back 5 years when, I mean, that was a lot of the work that I was doing was on social media, was on Instagram, where everything is perfectly packaged, right? It's very shiny, it's polished because people aren't oftentimes sharing their actual journeys. They're just sharing this glamorous story, Lamborghinis in the garage, $1 million, bank account statements. And it, that's what I came into when I initially built my business online. And so it took me probably 2 years, give or take, to detach myself from that. And the way that I did it, which is funny in retrospect, the way that I did it though is to step away from social media. And I didn't until the last year. The only time I spent on social media was for clients. And what I love about TikTok is the authenticity that I am able to see in people's journeys and the way that people share what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, it's incredible. And there is a very anti-hustle culture in the TikTok business world, which I have such a deep appreciation for because I've gotten stuck in it. I have followed mentors who tell you to wake up at 4 a.m. and go for a run, hit the gym by 5, eat perfectly, do 75 hard. There's, take on as many clients as you can, make all the money. And it's just like this go, go, go thing. And that's not healthy for any person, and especially not healthy for somebody who is building something that takes so much creative energy, which we entrepreneurs are doing. And so it took me some time to step away from that, but I was able to. And I learned over the years that, for me at least, and this is what I teach my students, and I talk a lot about this in my content on TikTok, I go with energy flow. So there may be weeks at a time that I'm not posting on TikTok, and it's totally fine. Nobody misses me, I promise. Everybody's worried about their own thing. So it is okay to step away. And when you feel that it's draining you energetically, whatever you're setting your mind to every single day, stop it. Cut it out of your life. I have fired clients because of that. I have taken huge income hits because of it. But I feel good. Like, that's kind of how I gauge my workflow. If I wake up in the morning and I'm excited and energized about what I've got in front of me that day, then I go with it. I roll with it. And if I wake up and I think that this day it's just not going to be productive, I don't have energy, I need to feed my soul in some way, I'll go ride horses for the afternoon. Like, that's the beauty of building a business that doesn't require you to be inside of it for it to function. And I mean, I have so much gratitude surrounding that, but stepping away from hustle culture was huge for me, and it changed my business dramatically.
I love that. And congratulations, because stepping away from that culture when you're raised in it, it is so difficult. And I so agree with you, because that's the other thing that keeps us on that hamster wheel of 9 to 5 and 2 weeks vacation and absolutely no sleep. Because even though you're working 9 to 5, you're still expected to answer emails when you're away. You're still expected to work when you're on vacation. And the one thing that people need to realize is your company will easily replace you. That's, it's not going to change. They will easily replace you, but your family can't, your life can't. You have to take those moments, and there can be imbalance. And I love that you said that. Thank you so much. And congratulations again for breaking away from that, because that can be so difficult. The fear with that is unbelievable. So thank you. Now, Breana, let's get into your businesses and how, a lot of it has been, you started kind of in social media management and things like that. Tell me how you grew and how you grew to be the coach and have the businesses that you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out as a freelancer. My very first offering, I didn't even know it was an offer at the time. I was just like, okay, what do you need me to do? I'll do that. But my very first package was a social media management package. And I did that for a couple of years until I'm always constantly I'm learning new things. I'm ADHD, and it's for me, like there's a constant thread in my life, and this is like online business in the last 5 years, but I'm constantly learning new things. I love to explore new ideas. I love marketing. So I am constantly trying to figure out better ways to market, better ways to position clients in my own business. So over time, I realized that like social media management, I'm still a huge fan of it. And I think that freelancers can do very well with it and agencies do very well with it. But I started to kind of hone down my services. And what changed things for me in a big way was that I hired a coach. I invested in 2020, I invested some money, a good chunk of money into coaching. I hired 2 different coaches throughout the year. I went through some intensive coaching programs, and a lot of what I learned was how to create systems in my business. And so instead of just being this generalist freelancer, I learned how to create productized offerings. That was a kind of the starting point for me to step into course creation and coaching, because I was able to free up a lot of time in my business by creating these productized services. So one of them was Facebook ads. And then I narrowed it down even further, Facebook ads specifically for this industry. And I only worked with businesses in that industry for a couple of years. And so because I had created systems, I was selling one thing over and over again, and I also had hired employees inside of my business, I was able to step out of it in a really big way. And at that point, I started creating my course. I launched my first course. I started taking on coaching clients. And I have, because I'm always learning, I have so much knowledge regarding digital marketing and online business building. So now all of this knowledge, I'm like, I got to do something with this, right? So I created my very first course. It's called Freelance to Freedom. I built that course out. I launched it. I taught it live, which was a lot of fun. And then I kind of made this journey into TikTok, the TikTok sphere, where I realized that there was this kind of gap in this specific niche, which is taking all the knowledge that you have, something that you're very passionate about, like I said, whether it's professional or a personal passion, and then taking that and turning it into a product. It can be a service, it can be coaching, it can be courses. But for me, it was a very easy transition. It was very natural. And that is my core focus right now. I've got a couple of social media clients that I do TikTok management for. They're passion projects of mine. So we'll always keep probably the agency running in the background, but my core focus is courses and coaching. And the time that I spend in my business right now, I do a weekly live meeting with my coaching group. It's a group coaching environment where they have access to a course, which is a live course that we're adding to every week. So it's a lot of fun. I get constant feedback. I really enjoy the way that I've got it set up. But the cool thing is that I don't need to show up in my business, my coaching business. I don't need to show up aside from that 1 hour, maybe 2 hours a week in front of my students, like client facing. So I have this like so much energy and time freed up to create content. And the majority of my time is spent maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. I spend focusing on creating content for TikTok because that is the top of my funnel. That's where all of my traffic comes from. I don't do any paid ads. I don't do any other advertising. It's just TikTok content, and it drives leads organically. So I've been having a lot of fun with that over these last few months.
I bet. And again, I'll say I love your TikTok content, and we won't get into TikTok because, it's a whole different sphere, and, advertising and promoting there is a huge issue that we won't get into. But you're so right. And, I think that change came where Instagram 5-6 years ago used to have that perfect image, and that's what it portrayed. And TikTok is different, and the reason that people are having difficulty adapting to it is because it's the complete opposite. You show the real you show your real struggles, and that's what makes you popular, which is the reason why people are having some difficulty with it. But again, a different issue. And what I love that you brought up, Breana, is the fact that you went to a coach yourself. And I've heard this from a lot of people. Yes, it is an investment, but it always pays off if you're putting that work in. Of course, you have to put in the work. But the thing I love about coaching is what you mentioned is you work really, for the most part, a couple of hours a week, and you can focus on other things. And I think a lot of people can be skeptical because they think, well, how is that possible? And it's really what you said, is you going to that coach and figuring out how to structure everything. Because that's the biggest thing, right? With any business, is figuring out how to manage it, how to structure it. And that is why coaches are so vital and so important and so helpful when it comes to that. Now, I love everything you just said, Breana. So you're focused on coaching and helping other people kind of go into this round, getting off the hamster wheel. Now let's get into, and I love that you kind of coined that term, as monetizing knowledge. Tell me how your passion grew towards helping other people, and how those people can really grow a business or have a side hustle or whatever, just discussing things that they already know.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And it's interesting. I think that there are teachers, and then there are people that just will never want to step into that educator role, and that's totally fine. We need all kinds, right? Since I landed my first client and made the decision to take this journey, this entrepreneurial journey, and saw what it offered me. I've traveled all over the world. I lived overseas. I learned a new language. I have had so many incredible experiences because of this, to me, very simple concept of creating your own income online. So I've had this passion. There are a couple of different reasons for it, but suffice to say, there are people in my life, specifically women in my life, who over the years, I'm child free, and some of my closest friends have kids. Mm-hmm. So I've seen the women that I love have to kind of sacrifice time with their kids for this idea of, building the career. And that is okay. There's no shame in that. Absolutely not. I think everybody has to build the journey that is best for them. But because I saw the women that I love in pain doing this, where they wanted to be home with their kids, they wanted to travel, they wanted to be able to have these experiences, but they couldn't because they needed to pay the bills, that I think inspired a lot in me to share this, because to me, it's so simple. Like what I did, it's not an easy thing by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a simple concept and anybody can do it. Like you mentioned, it's something that you have to put in the work, and I've put in more hours than I could possibly count over the years, developing this ability and the confidence and everything that goes into making an online business successful. But I need to share that with other people. I can't help it. It comes out of me. Before TikTok was the thing, before I was teaching in courses, I was teaching friends who wanted to learn how to freelance, just like side by side. Here's how I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's something that is inside of me that I have to share with people. So I kind of just made the decision at a certain point that I was going to turn this into a business model. And I genuinely enjoy it. And the amazing thing is that you don't need to I've heard so many people say, well, I don't know anything about social media. I don't have the computer knowledge that you do. I promise you're making it so much more difficult in your mind than it needs to be. I know people who make $10,000 a month selling recipes, like literally a $24 book of recipes. And all they do is create content around recipes, and people buy their recipe book. There are so many creators out there that are monetizing the things that they're passionate about. And this is not always something that you have to do. You can create beautiful art like this behind me and never sell it. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to monetize everything. But if you want the freedom of time, income, location, and you have that drive to create that with your passion, it's something that is very easily created. You can, I mean, it's as simple as recording 5 videos and turning it into a course and putting it in your link in bio, whatever that may be, and creating content around it. So I don't know. I want people to know that it's not hard. If I could do it, anybody can do it. It's not hard in the sense that you need a specific degree or a certain like knowledge level, but it does take consistency, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to show up for yourself every single day, because nobody's going to make you get out of bed and create content. Nobody's going to remind you that you have to follow up with your clients. Like, you have to be self-driven. So if you have all of that equation, do it. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah. I love that you said that. And the part that sticks out, yes, it's simple. It's true. Anybody can do it. And that's why it seems too good to be true often, but it is not easy at all. And because you are your own boss. There's no one else telling you when the deadline is, how much time you have. So you're so right. It is simple, but it's not easy. Wow, Breana, you have been so amazing. Love everything you've been talking about. Now, before I let you go, drop your handle and drop some links, and of course, which I'll have in the description, but just let people know where they can find you, find your coaching, and the things that you have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on all social medias as Breana Puente. TikTok, I'm Breana.Puente. The handle wasn't available. So Breana.Puente on TikTok, and across all of my social medias, you can find me under the same handle. If you think that this might make sense for you, I have a lot of free resources. All of my TikTok videos, I've got a YouTube channel, I've got Facebook, which is full of interviews, and I also have a digital income roadmap, totally free. It's in any link in bio. So if you follow me on TikTok and just click on the link in my bio, you can see this digital income roadmap. You'll be able to download it. And it basically is just a 30,000 foot view of everything we've been talking about in this last hour, how I do what I do, how you can monetize your passion. And then obviously, if you're in a space where you want to take it a step further and perhaps work with me inside of my coaching program, I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you. You can apply at the same link in my bio, and I greatly look forward to seeing you all on social media on the other side.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Breana. Amazing. I can so feel that passion that you have for helping people, and she's so right. There's so much free content on her TikTok and everywhere else. So, and please feel free to reach out. All the info will be in the description in terms of all of Breana's online services, which are obviously amazing. Breana, thank you so much for being a guest on the Tea with Me. It has been an absolute